See if we can get people's attention. Hello! Hello! Hi, stream! There we go. Streaming? Yeah. Good stuff. Right. We'll begin. It's 7:01, so we've got to keep the live stream happy because otherwise they'll be completely thrown off. Right. Hi. Welcome to DigitalOcean Amsterdam March edition here at Your Majesty Amsterdam. You made your way in, and hopefully you got a sticker, so you know who you are. And you hopefully got a beverage from over there, and somewhere to perch yourself. It's good coverage this time. Yeah, toilets are behind you if you haven't found them already. If you smoke and vape, go downstairs where you came in, smoke outside the door. That'll be great. We've got a table full of stickers over there. We have so many stickers, so you can take as many as you like. We got 3 new ones this month if you came last month. So we've got to get you stickers. Yeah, the Wi-Fi is Your Majesty Guest, and the password is Cavalier, which is actually surprisingly difficult to type. Yeah, and yeah, if you feel like tweeting, you can use the DO Meetup hashtag, and yeah, tell the world. Yeah, you can hear me. So yeah, we're doing a live stream. Last month we decided to take the plunge, which is where this GIF comes from. I put YouTube into Giphy, and this is what comes out. He's completely fine, by the way. Yeah, we took the plunge and decided to do a live stream. It went pretty well. We had really simple apparatus. This time we have much more complicated apparatus, but it does follow my presentation beautifully. So hopefully it's going to work. Yeah, so that's good. Yeah, so there's a few people that help me out make this thing happen. Abril, who hopefully saw at the front door. She moonlights as a flower for garden shows. And then this is Hugo, who is sorting out the live stream, because otherwise, yeah, it'd be a bit of a mess. Yeah, there's a few of the YM team about, I think, maybe. And yes, thank you for all turning up. It's greatly appreciated. Yeah. And then, so the agenda for tonight, you did the first one, you grabbed beer. This is the introduction, believe it or not. Then following me, there's going to be Bert. He's going to give a intro, how not to fail at DevOps, 15 ways of failing at DevOps, so you can avoid them. After that, there's a brief interlude for like 5-10 minutes. It gives you a chance to get a beer, go to the toilet, chat to peoples. Then Lucas is going to do a talk on running Linux desktop applications in containers. Should be interesting. Yeah, and then yeah, it all finishes off about 20 to 9. The pizzas will turn up between 2:15 and 9 o'clock. Come all the way from a demon tonight because they are Papa John's, and according to them, I phoned them up earlier, and yeah, you can't get them from the one down the road. You have to go all the way to Demon, which is weird. Anyway, yeah, so loads of pizzas. I'm working on the pizza to people ratio. Hopefully we have enough this week. So that's good. In emergencies, right, so there's a few house things to do. Firstly, if there's a fire, you have to go to the fire exits. The best one probably is go back where you came, downstairs, outside in the crossroad. Otherwise you have to go that way and climb across like beer and beer crates, so it's probably not advised. Yeah, once you get outside, you assemble on the other side of the bridge, and yeah, we'll sort you out. If you hurt yourself, then find a member of Your Majesty team, and we'll patch you up, give you some paracetamol. If worst comes to worst, we'll call an ambulance, but hopefully it will never come to that. But yes, it's there if you need it. Yeah. And then we have a code of conduct. This is the serious bit of the presentation. So DigitalOcean is dedicated to providing a harassment-free event for everyone, regardless of a gender identity, expression, age, sexual orientation, disability, physical appearance, body size, race, ethnicity, religion, or technological choices. So be nice to each other, basically. That's super simple. And yeah, if anything happens, find me or one of the YM team, and we'll sort it out. And if you feel like something's happened, you want to tell me, not in person, you can tweet me, or yeah, there's all the details will be at the end. So that. Yeah, so word from our sponsors. We've got Your Majesty provided the venue. DigitalOcean paid for the beers and the pizza, which is very important. So yeah, DigitalOcean. They make they're the first all solid-state drive cloud hosting provider. They make hosting websites and doing mathematics super simple. You can create a droplet in 55 seconds, literally just like this. It's brilliant. So yes, you can spend less time doing stuff like this and more time doing things you love, which is what we want. And then yeah, the Your Majesty team hosted us tonight, which is great. You can see we're a fancy organization because we use like serif fonts and they're tall and old-fashioned. There's us. We're a design and technology firm that powers digital product and brand experience for like Netflix, Adidas, Spotify, Samsung, and Universal Group, to name a few. We put shoes on the side of massive LED boards, which is one thing. We've got Ellie Golding with the UMG product, which is pretty cool. Yeah, and then the calendar. So yeah, next month, roughly the 19th of April, probably back here. We got Hugo, who's going to talking about something vaguely JavaScript-y. He's got lots of app ideas. The second speaker is still to be confirmed. I'm working on that one. Yeah, and then in May we got CodeEmotions in town. So I have hijacked half of their speakers, and we're going to do it on the Wednesday evening. And so we've got Phil Nash talking about his JWT what the fuck presentation, and Ben Strub, and I think that's not how you pronounce his surname. Hopefully he'll still come, but he's talking about the hacking culture of JavaScript. We may get a couple more, may get 3, maybe 4 speakers in total. It just relates on if they're gonna like reply by emails to me. And then there's lots of stuff afterwards that isn't confirmed. We might have a security talk in maybe June. Yeah, and microservices is also an option. There's lots of stuff in the pipeline. It just needs to be confirmed, and we'll get it sorted. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. Yeah, so there's me. There's my Twitter. If you want to contact me directly, you can say nice things or horrible things. It's up to you. If you want to escalate any issues or say nice things, you can talk to Samantha. She runs the meetups for DigitalOcean globally. Yeah, and yeah, there's a feedback form and Samantha's email. And as always, you can always hashtag at the bottom. So that is that. And then that's me. That's me done. Intro done in good time. Has anybody got any questions? No, that's good. Right, first things first then, we'll hand over to Bert and we'll see if the live stream works.
So plug it in here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Grab that one. Yeah, just put it on. So we can see it. Projector gonna work. Projector's gonna work. Amazing.
So I believe having a live stream or any video conversation requires me to follow the protocol, which is saying 3 times, "Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me all right?" So now, having that done, let's get started. First, let's start with this picture. Does anyone know what this picture is? What is in this picture? Shout if you know it. Challenger is usually what people say. Yeah, it wasn't a Challenger. It was that other one.
Discovery?
No, I think Discovery made it back to Earth in one piece.
Columbia?
The Columbia, yes, it's the Columbia. What happened to the Columbia? It blew up. Yeah, it blew up when re-entering the atmosphere. The reason was because a piece of insulation foam broke loose when it lifted off, and this damaged some of the heat-resistant tiles. So when it came back to the atmosphere, the tiles, yeah.
Speak up a little bit.
Yeah. So one of the heat-resistant tiles was damaged. When it returned to the atmosphere, it blew a hole in the shuttle and it exploded. And it turned out that these incidents with piece of foam, insulation foam on the tank coming loose had appeared before. But then management had reasoned that if this appeared, it couldn't have been fixed. So they decided to kind of manage the problem away. So the key thing to take from this is managers always listen to your engineers. So I had this slide on when I did this presentation at the Java 1 conference in San Francisco a while ago, and then right before the talk, a gentleman approached me, and it was a middle-aged gentleman, and he came pretty close to me, and he said, "Why did you put this picture on the screen?" So I was curious why he was asking so much. Why do you want to know? Then he showed me his badge, and this gentleman worked at NASA. So I told him, yeah, my talk is about a disaster, and I wanted to picture that well with a disaster, and that was one of the things that popped into my mind. And then he came a little bit closer, and he was kind of touched by what I was doing, not in a good way. So he said, "Do you know how many space shuttles launched successfully?" I said, "Well, I don't know." He said 133, and only 2 crashed. So I'm like, right, NASA man, I'll fix this. So I promised him that every time I will be telling this story, I will be also telling that 133 launches went correctly. And I also did this at the talk, and the Americans tend to be fairly proud at their space program. So they did a loud cheering and yelling section at the NASA man. So again, now I'm obliged to give a round of applause to NASA for 133 successful space shuttle launches. So cheers to NASA. So why am I telling you all this? Just making conversation. Well, I've helped a fair share of companies in progressing with DevOps or moving to DevOps. And I've also had my fair share of appearances at conferences around the world where I tell what I like to tell. And I was thinking, well, how can I combine these two? I can't really go on stage and tell how about you do DevOps, how to do DevOps right, because there's not really one right way. It always depends on the situation, the organization, and the culture. But what I can tell you, however, is how not to do DevOps. So I'll be sharing 15 failures, call them anti-patterns of DevOps, mostly of stuff I did wrong myself. So hopefully it will prevent you from making these mistakes, and it will at least, I hope, put a smile on your face. So about me. My name is Bert Jan Schrijver. I work at JPoint, which is a Java consulting shop. I also work at Open Value, which a startup that is consulting on continuous delivery and DevOps, basically everything that helps companies deliver better software faster. My current assignment is at the Dutch National Police, which for obvious reasons I'm not going to tell you that much about. And in my spare time I run the NLJUG, which is the Dutch Java user group. So if you haven't found out by now, I'm a Java guy. The NLJUG has around 4,000 members, 50 business partners. We organize a few conferences. The best known one is JFall, which houses about 1,500 Java developers every November. I'm also a recognized Java champion and a Java 1 Rockstar speaker. What does this mean? If you don't like this talk, blame Oracle, because they thought it was good. So for the next 40 minutes or so, I'll start with giving you some context to get each other all started on the same page. I'll give not one, but even 2 definitions of DevOps. I'll thoroughly explain how to fail at DevOps, and I'll end by explaining what, in my humble opinion, DevOps is really about. So let's start with the first. A few definitions. How many of you are developers? So like 9%. How many of you are doing some sort of continuous integration at your work? So please keep your hand up, because I'm going to ask a bit more questions. So put your hand down. If not all developers in your team, check in their code to version control at least once a day. Right? Still most hands up. If you didn't check into it today, no, lower your hand. Put your hands down unless every commit triggers a build and unit test run. Right, still most hands up. Put your hands down if the build isn't fixed within 10 minutes when it's broken. All right, so we got like 1.5 hand doing continuous integration. Round of applause, please. Okay, so what? Yes, definitely. So what's my point? The point is that the definitions are useful to get the same starting point. When I started with this question about everyone was doing continuous integration, when I asked the last question, only 1 or 2 people left. So continuous delivery is when you're building and testing software in such a way that your software is always in a releasable state. You're always ready to deploy to production. You don't necessarily deploy every change to production, because this might depend on your business case for deploying lots of stuff very fast, but you're always ready. So this is mainly about building testable and maintainable software. And then kind of the next step is continuous deployment, where you're actually deploying every change in production automatically once it has been verified by an automated pipeline. Is continuous deployment for everyone? No, I wouldn't think so. Depends on your business. For most of the clients I work with, deploying to production every sprint, so every 2 weeks is fine. When you're in a real competitive race with a competitor where getting features out there as fast as possible is the most important thing in your life ever, totally, then maybe continuous deployment could be your thing. It could also help in mitigating risks, because when you deploy every change into production, when something fails, you're pretty sure in what change the failure was. But it's not really necessary for everyone. And then there's DevOps. And then whenever I talk to people about DevOps, some feeling comes to me, and I kind of feel like this. Everybody talks about DevOps, but is everybody doing it? Or just saying they're doing it? Well, it depends on the definition. And I will share with you 2 definitions I like. The first one is DevOps is, as the title says, development and operation engineers being responsible together for the entire life cycle of a product. And this definition is actually wrong, because it's not really only about development and operation engineers, but to being responsible together for the entire life cycle from inception to support. That I definitely do believe. And another one, which I think is a little bit better because of the first sentence, it's developers and other IT professionals, testers, maybe business analysts, application managers, whoever is involved with the product, working together on a shared goal. And that shared goal being working software in production, quicker and more reliable. So it's all about creating working projects that deliver value and business impact for your end users. So why should we do DevOps? Because Netflix does it, or because Spotify does it? No, you should only do it when it has business value, right? And it does make your business move faster. Because DevOps, I believe, is an enabler for continuous delivery, and it helps you to resolve problems faster. So you can focus on creating value and creating business impact instead of wasting time on analyzing them and solving problems. It helps making your business win in short version. So is DevOps something new? The latest new thing we should do? I don't think so. I think DevOps, where multiple disciplines are working together on working software, is about fixing a mistake from the past. The mistake from the past is servers are expensive. Well, we're talking like 10, 15, 20 years ago. We need to buy, we're going to do web stuff. We need to buy a big server. It costs like 10 or 20 or 100K. The server is so expensive that we want to maximize the utilization of this server. So we want to cram as much in there as possible. So we need specialized personnel to manage this server and maximize the ROI on this server. And then this personnel is responsible for keeping the server available at all time. And then this team usually wants the server to be online, and all changes are a potential of getting the server offline. So they are resistant to changes. But this has changed. Servers aren't expensive anymore. Well, they are if you buy them yourself and put them in your own data center. But if you have a credit card, you can go to a random cloud and order a server for almost nothing. You can run a pretty good server for only 5 or 10 or maybe 15 euros a month. And it's also very easy to run lots of servers. So you can, instead of one big server where you run 10 applications on, you get 10 small servers where you run each one application on. And then maybe we don't need specialized personnel anymore to maximize utilization of one server, but we need personnel that it's able to maximize the amount of business impact an application is making. Not so much focused on utilizing hardware, but creating products that are good. So I think moving to a DevOps way of working is not about doing something new. It's about fixing the mistake in the past and splitting development and operations for budget reasons. Of course, there are different expertises. Creating software is something else as being able to run and scale the software for thousands of users. But I think it should definitely be something that's working together, and not apart, and definitely not against each other. So I'll share 15 misconceptions, call them anti-patterns of DevOps. Let's start with the first one. So one quick thing, I'll put these slides online, I'll tweet them. Feel free to take pictures. But if you take pictures, wait until there's a sentence at the bottom of the screen. Because I'll start sharing the failure first, which is on top. And then next, I'll say what's wrong about it. So if you take a picture of this slide and tweet it, people are thinking I'm meaning the title of the slide, which in detail is wrong. So it's definitely the same thing as continuous delivery and continuous deployment. I hope I explained this a few slides ago. Continuous delivery is about building and testing software. Continuous deployment is about getting your stuff there, getting it in production. And DevOps is about keeping it running and running your stuff in production reliably. So let's move on to the next one. We're going to do DevOps. So we have a few development teams, and I'll refer about this next great big thing, which is DevOps. So we're going to add a new team to our stack of teams, and this is the DevOps team that will handle all operations stuff. You're actually going the wrong way if you're doing this, because DevOps is about removing silos. It's about removing the dev and the ops silo. So if you're adding a DevOps team, you're creating an extra silo. So it's about getting those teams together, not about adding more silos. So is it wrong to have a team focused on infrastructure? No, I wouldn't necessarily say so. What I typically see with clients that are medium to large size, like 5+ development teams, is that these teams have operational responsibility for running their application in production. But typically there is some shared core infrastructure team that is maybe managing the platform that everyone is running on, or maybe creating all the build tools and generic provisioning scripts. So what I typically see and advise to clients is make sure you have one core infrastructure team that doesn't have operational responsibility for your products, but only for your platform. So, for example, at the police, we're running a private cloud in the police data center. We have one team that's responsible for keeping that cloud and the generic build infrastructure and stuff running. And there's other teams, and those teams work on the products. The third one, DevOps. As the title says, it's only for dev and ops. You can only do DevOps when you're a development or an operations engineer. Well, probably you get where I'm going by now. No, I think everybody should be in the team, especially testers, because testers have an important role in building, testing, and delivering software too. So one of my previous contracts, we had the testers do production deployments and then test the deployment afterwards. Maybe we did a fix where some logging improved. They would start looking up the production logging, analyze logs, start performance tests. We had application managers that were kind of the first link between the help desk, where the end user would call, and then the development teams. And these application managers, they were the first one on call when something went wrong. So whenever an instance broke down, they got a notification. And these typically didn't have that much technical knowledge, but we had explained them enough about we're running at the Amazon cloud. Sorry, DigitalOcean for that, but we were running there. And they knew enough that all our applications were in clusters, so like 4-6 instances behind the load balancer. And they knew enough to go to the load balancer, go to the health check, see which instance was dead, look it up in the autoscaling group, throw it away, and then it would get rebuilt and became healthy again. So without knowing any technical details about how we set up our load balancing, how Puppet configured the server, how the Java apps were running, they were able to fix a broken environment. And I think that was pretty powerful. So if you empower people, almost everyone can fix stuff. We were deploying applications to production using Jenkins, and then once we taught the project manager how he could select a version to deploy to production and push the button. He told me later it was the best day of his life. If you empower people, almost everybody can fix stuff and do stuff for your teams. And I think it's not only about development operations and testers, but almost everyone who has a role and responsibility in the team who can work in a DevOps team. DevOps means developers managing production. This is usually the one that's getting the core ops people a bit angry. I'm not going to let those cowboy developers touch my smoothly running production systems. Is this false? Is this right? Well, I'm a consultant, so I usually say it depends. It depends on a few factors. When you're a large enterprise with 5,000 developers, you're a bank or so, I wouldn't necessarily give every developer access to production. When you're a small startup with 5 people, I would definitely not only give one person access to production, because that one person is on the toilet break and stuff gets on fire. You don't want him rushing into the toilet to start fixing stuff. So it always depends. It also depends on your situation. When you're working on, for example, at the tax service, and there's lots of privacy stuff involved, I would be a bit easy on how to give access to production. When you're building maybe a web shop with not too much customer information, and your most important thing is to be always online, I would definitely give everyone who is suitable access to production. So yeah, this always depends. But I myself have found it very educational to have access to my production environments. First, because then I feel empowered to fix stuff, if only it's restarting the Java process that's running. But I also get to know the applications I build a lot better. When I can log into when there's 4 instances running and 1 instance breaks, I can log in there, start doing maybe some S traces, or look at the Java process, look at the VM stats, see what's going on with that instance, and better understand how the application I built behaves under load. It also allows me to experiment. We were having trouble configuring the optimal JVM memory settings. So we were like, yeah, we need to do an investigation and make a plan and then see which works best. And then one of the guys just said, okay, we got 6 instances running in production. Let's scale it up to 8, because we can, with 4 instances, we can easily handle the load. We put one memory setting on 4 nodes and one memory setting on the other 4 nodes, and then we see which 4 die first, and then we pick the other one. And that worked pretty well, because there's only one environment that's really a good picture of what's running in production, and this is your production environment. So for me, it really helped. Also because I get really annoyed when there's something wrong on a machine. I know what's wrong, I know what to do to fix it, and I don't have the rights to fix it. That's really blocking for me, and then I start harassing people and stand next to their desks as long as possible before I can fix it myself. So number 5, DevOps is only for hipsters and startups and unicorns. You can't do DevOps when you're in an enterprise. It can work in the enterprise too. It's harder, I think. When you're a startup and just getting started, you don't have any legacy. You really don't need to do much transformation. When you're just getting started, you're just doing whatever you think is good. When you're a larger organization, you want to move to DevOps, you're going through a change process, and you need to have a change plan and communicate and get people to change. So it's definitely easier to do in a startup, but there are banks who are saying they're doing DevOps. It's definitely doable, but it's a lot harder. It's a lot more work because you are changing an organization, and changing technology is fairly easy, but changing people and changing culture, that's the hard part. And moving to DevOps is really mostly a cultural movement. So I found that's really what takes the most energy to transform people and transform organizations, transform cultures. You need containers and microservices, and definitely the cloud to do DevOps. You can't do DevOps without containers, microservices, and the cloud. It's not about technology. It's about collaboration and shared responsibility. So I would actually turn this around. If you are using containers and microservices and the cloud, you better do DevOps, otherwise you're screwed. But you can do DevOps with fairly traditional stuff and traditional servers and monoliths and whatever. As long as you work together and sit together at the same desk with operations expertise and development expertise, you're good to go. Just start to understand each other's worlds and move from there. DevOps is about automation. Yeah, we got Chef. We do DevOps. I just installed Puppet. We are now doing DevOps. Automation helps, of course, but it's not the goal of DevOps. I think the goals of DevOps are to move faster and better as an organization. Have an allergy to things that make you slow. If it hurts, do it more often. Automate what you can automate. If you've done something 3 times manual, you don't like doing it, automate it. So automation helps, but it's not the main goal. It's just one of the utilities you can use to get there. So I'll tell you a little story about automation, which had nothing to do with IT, but with automation. So who in here has kids? Right. So I have two. I have a son and a daughter. They're 3 and 5 now. But the story takes place around a year ago, when they were 2 and 4, obviously. So I was at my parents-in-law's house, and my daughter, who had just learned to use the toilet, she needed to go to the toilet. She's like, yeah, I need to go to the toilet. I need to go. So I go, all right, then I'll go. So she rushes off to the toilet. And then 30 seconds later, my son, who was 2 by then, who was still in diapers, he said, Daddy, I need to go to the toilet too. So his name is Pim. So I'm like, all right, Pim, you go ahead. So Pim rushes off to the toilet too. And then I'm hearing them chatting and shouting a bit at each other. And I think I better go check it out. So I go to the toilet. This is not a regular toilet. No. But my father-in-law, like me, likes gadgets. So this is a gadget toilet. So it is this one with all kind of lights and buttons on there. And when you go sit on it, you have a remote, and when you press it, the toilet starts cleaning you. It's a different experience. It's what happens is there's this well, I'll tell you later. But it sprays. So I came in there and they're chatting, and my daughter's sitting there, and my son is standing beside the toilet, and he has discovered there is a button with a light on the toilet. And my son Pim, he is of the inquisitive kind. So I see him looking at this button. I instantly know what he's going to do. He's going to do what I would do too if I discovered a new button. What do we do when we see a button? We press it, of course. So I'm looking at him with my angry dad looks. Don't press it. He's looking at me, blank stare. And I see him moving a bit. He's moving towards the button. So I'm saying, Pim, don't push the button. He keeps moving to the button. Pim, don't push that button. He keeps eye contact all the time. So he said, well, let's imagine that you are me and I'm him, and there's the button. So he's moving. Pim, don't touch the button. Don't press it. Pim, if you touch that button, and then I see a spark in his eyes. He gets the biggest smile I've ever seen, and he pushes the button. So what happens next is in my memory, it must have taken like 2 or 3 seconds, but in my memory it's in slow motion. What happens next is I'm standing at the entrance of the toilet, so Pim is standing there and my daughter's sitting on the toilet there, and from the side of my eye I see the thing moving in the toilet. The thing that starts spraying when you're sitting on there. And she's sitting on there, and she's tiny. She's like 1 meter high. And this thing is going there, and she was just learning how to use the toilet, so I'm thinking, oh no, if this thing sprays her, she won't be using the toilet for the next 10 years or so. So how do I fix it? I see this thing moving. I figure I got about 2.5 seconds to decide and to do something. So I'm thinking, what should I do? Can I go there and cancel it? I don't know how to cancel it. And then it's almost all the way extended, so I can only do one thing, and is pick her up. So I move over, I pick her up, while she's still doing her business. I pick her away, and at that moment, the thing starts spraying. So it sprays wildly throughout the whole toilet. It sprays in my face. It was warm, that was a good thing. It sprays, my daughter was wet, my son was wet. They're all yelling and shouting and crying, and they're not planning on using the toilet anytime soon. Whole big thing. So why am I telling you this? Moral of the story is, automation is only as good as its ability to cope with the unexpected. So I would classify this as unexpected behavior for the toilet. And if I were to design a toilet like this, I would definitely make sure that it won't start spraying unless there's a behind above it, if you know what I mean. Some security measures. And this is exactly what can go wrong with automation too. As long as the situation works as expected, your automation scripts probably work fine. But then when there's something wrong, automation can easily screw things up worse than they were before. So automation helps, but no, it's not the main goal of DevOps. It's about tools. I already told you, we got Puppet, we got Chef. DevOps is about tools. I've installed this new great deployment tool, so now we're all full-scale DevOps. Nah, you don't need Chef, you don't need Puppet. Tools help. Automate provisioning, automate deployments, automated scaling, they all help a lot. But as the saying goes, a fool with a tool is still a fool. So I did this talk at JavaZone last year. And then my friend Mark Heckler, who works at Pivotal, responded on Twitter. Bert just used one of my favorite quotes. A tool with a fool is I always screw it up. A fool with a tool is still a fool. So then I was like, yeah, I can't help getting a feeling which reminds me of one of the action series I watched in my youth. Thinking that B.A. Baracus is saying this. A fool with a tool is still a fool. So then I said, yeah, you're right. It kind of sounds like a B.A. thing to do. It's a timeless quote by Grady Boots. Grady Boots is kind of a famous person in the speaker circuit. But yeah, it sounds like a B.A. thing too. And then within 3 seconds, Grady Boots replies, I pity the fool. But tools, yeah, tools help, but tools are not a goal. DevOps is a job title, something you can be certified in. Before I heard anyone, is anyone in here working as a DevOps or a certified DevOps? Not doing so or not daring to say so? It's not personal, but I don't believe you can be certified in DevOps. And I think DevOps as a job title, I think it's strange. Maybe you can be a DevOps engineer, when you're working on the dev side of things and the operation side of things. But a DevOps, it's a combination of two things. If you're a DevOps and you go to a DevOps conference, you need to buy 2 plane seats. How does this work? What are you certified in when you're certified in DevOps? Certified in what working together? Certified that you speak the speak of the developers as an ops guy, or you talk the ops talk as a developer guy? I don't know. So I don't believe in DevOps certification. Or actually, everyone is certified in DevOps. Because we all learned how to cooperate and how to work together in kindergarten, in the playground. So congratulations, from now on you're all certified DevOps. DevOps replaces Agile. So yeah, we're not doing Agile anymore. We're doing DevOps. Yeah, nah. I think Agile is a way to develop software. It's a way to handle project management in software development projects. I think DevOps is broader. They work together well. But I like to see DevOps as being agile on the operations surface. Instead of being traditionally trying to avoid change in operation, also embracing change in the operation side of things. Embracing improving and continuously wanting to make your production environment running better and understand more of it, understand more of the applications that are running in there. I like this one too. DevOps doesn't work with waterfall. It only works with agile. And it definitely doesn't work with Prince or ITIL. Yeah. It's like saying this collaboration doesn't work with waterfall. Or collaboration doesn't work with ITIL. I think all these methodologies are about a way of managing complexity and risk and planning in software projects. DevOps can work fine with waterfall. I think it works best with agile because they both have this agility and embracing change thing going on. But it can work with waterfall, and you could do DevOps when handling incidents in an ITIL way. It works best with agile, but it can certainly work. This one is something I did very wrong myself. You don't need to define what DevOps means to your organization. Just get going. People will understand. Everybody's probably just like me. They like everything. They enjoy managing Linux servers and running Java apps on there. They enjoy learning about clouds and scaling and databases and culture. Yeah, this won't work if you don't explain this. If you don't explain what DevOps means to your organization. Moving to DevOps is a change process. So you need communication plans. You need change management. I helped one of our clients move to DevOps where they had something like 10 development teams. And we were getting started, and I was thinking, oh wow, we need to discuss with the ops guys about what technologies we use. Will it be Red Hat Linux or Oracle Linux or Ubuntu? And will we use Puppet or Chef? And will it be Code Deploy or something else? And then it turned out this was a heavy discussion. It took us about a day, and then we were done. Because in the end, people didn't really matter whether we use Chef or Puppet. They all do this kind of the same thing. And then I thought, wow, that was the hard part. Now just let's rush through the organization. Everybody will understand, and they will move along right away. And then I said one step out of that room, and then resistance hit me, because when you want to change people and change cultures, you will hit resistance. And I was having resistance of developers who were saying, no, I'm fine with just developing and then deploying it to our artifact repository, and then ops will take it from there. I don't want to concern myself with managing servers. That's for ops. I just wanted to deploy it to their platform. And then one of the project managers of a team who was moving on, he called me and he said, well, so who do I call when my production environment is down? I said, well, it's your own team. Your own team can fix it. We were empowering them with the ability to fix it so they can fix it themselves. Yeah, but really, I want to be taken care of by DevOps. I want DevOps to be something that does everything for me and doesn't cause me any trouble, and it's just there, and DevOps will take care of me. And I was feeling anger surfacing in myself, and I was thinking, we will talk about this tomorrow. And then I hung up and like, how can he be so stupid? He doesn't understand a thing about DevOps. This guy is an idiot. He doesn't understand anything. And then I was ranting about this to a colleague of mine, and the colleague asked me the simple question, well, did you explain it to him? And I was still feeling rage. No, of course not. He should be. Oh wait, maybe he hadn't had of doubles before, or he was still in that. You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means phase. So then I started talking a lot. Well, I usually talk a lot, but I'm talking more with people and explaining them what we are doing, why we are doing this, what this will cost us, what this will bring us, where we were going, why we were going there. And then people start to understand. Not everyone, but most of them start to understand. And from there on, things went on to move a bit easier. So I told this at home to my lovely girlfriend, who is a communications expert and also busy with change projects and stuff. And then I kind of felt stupid that I didn't ask her. So whenever you're trying to change an organization, make sure you have a plan and you know something about change management and explaining and how to change cultures and people, because that's the hard part. The technology is fairly easy. The changing people is the hard part. You can easily just rush through an organization, start at the bottom, and then push DevOps up the way to the tree. And then when you're all winning and it's all good, management will think, oh wow, yeah, DevOps is really working for us. Nah, probably when you start doing that, you'll start rushing in there, changing stuff, and as long as you're not done, stuff will break and will work less well than before. We were keeping track of our uptime, because we were providing a SaaS to customers, and when we were starting to move to DevOps, our uptime decreased, because before we were running on statically hosted machines that were configured by hand, and they weren't dynamically scaling or anything, and we would boot them up, and then they would run for years, and they would stay up for years. Now we were moving to a situation where machines were provisioned automatically with Puppet, and then built up, and then deployed, and then at night it would go down again and scale up and out whenever necessary, so we could handle a lot more varying workloads. But at the beginning, stuff would fail because we messed up some Puppet script, or something else went wrong, or we hit a limit in AWS in the number of instances we could spin up. So in the beginning, actually, we were getting more downtime than before. And this is really where you need support all the way up to the tree, because project managers will need to meet their figures of availability, because they're in their personal development plan for the year. They will start yelling at you like, we're down more than before. I thought DevOps was going to help us fix all this stuff. Why are we down? Why isn't this working? And then you say, well, because we're moving from a very static environment to a very dynamic environment, which will allow us to do this and then in the end it will all be better. Yeah, but it's not better now. I want it to be better now. And then you say, well, we're working on it. It will get better. And then they'll start. They are not satisfied with your answer, so they'll start barking up the tree to upper management, and they'll say, well, this DevOps thing sucks. We go down all the time, and I can't call anyone and shout at them to fix my production environment because my team needs to fix it and my team needs to work on features too. And then you need to have all the way up to the tree someone who says, yeah, I know, but we're doing this to improve and to get better. And in the end, it will get better. If that person says, yeah, you're right, we should stop, then you're done. You can't do anything. So you really need to make sure that the upper management understands that this is a change process, that stuff will break and get harder in the beginning, then we'll get a lot better in the end. In the end, when we were done, we were almost always there, because whenever a database node would fail, someone else would take over. Whenever an application crashed, we had 3 other instances running, and the application manager could fire them up again. We were a lot more cheaper because we were throwing away test environments in the night, and we were running only on our average capacity. And when there was a peak load, we would scale up. But that took us about a year to get there. And in that year, it was, well, especially for the first half part of that year, it was availability-wise less good than the year before. We were just running static stuff. You can enforce DevOps in an organization. Just rush and push it through there. I had a different picture on this slide before. And he wasn't it by then, but I had a picture of the 45th President of the United States about enforcing. And then when I did this talk at Java 1, I noticed that the audience responded a bit different than before. Different when I did it in Norway or in the Netherlands, people would just kind of laugh, yeah, that's this stupid guy again. And then in September or October, I did it at Java 1, and then the audience kind of got silent, and they didn't really laugh. So, well, that's strange, so I just moved on. Now later I was discussing with a colleague, and he said, yeah, well, for these people this can become reality. So, well, we all know this reality now. So I've learned not to mix politics with talks and technology. So now there's this very cool police enforcer vehicle, which depicts enforcing. Can you enforce DevOps? Can you say, from tomorrow on, we're doing DevOps? Probably, I guess I'm going to say no. You can never enforce cultural change. Whenever you ask a group of people who wants change, everybody goes, yay! And then you ask who wants to change, and everybody goes, let me check my messages. So you can never enforce it. And you need to do a lot of explaining. Why are we going there? Why are we doing this? Which will this bring us? And why are we going there? And what will happen in the meantime? So no, cultural change is hard and you can never enforce it. And then finally, one of my favorites. DevOps prevents failure. When you do DevOps, nothing will fail ever again. Yeah, sorry to be the one to break it to you, but no, it's actually more about embracing failure, because failure is where the magic happens. That's where you learn. When something fails spectacularly, you learn spectacularly. I was at a client a while ago, and they had this parking spot right in front of the door of the office, next to the CEO's parking spot, and it had something like failure of the month a sign on there. So whenever someone had the most spectacular failure, he could park there for a month. There are companies who order cakes for failures. The bigger the cake, the bigger the failure, the bigger the cake, because that's really where you learn. So when something fails, embrace this as an opportunity to learn. Don't look for someone to blame, although this can feel good, but don't look for someone to blame. Try to find what you can do better next time. So I got a lot of questions about what's the role of a project manager when we're doing Agile and DevOps, because you have a self-steering and reporting team. The team is doing all management themselves, and what's the role of a project manager? So one of the things I usually say is the role of a project manager is to create an environment where failure is safe to happen. So it's one side of it is about culture, embracing failure and knowing that you learn something. And I usually say, when it's not impacting end users in production, it's not really failure. When your test breaks or your application, your acceptance environment, whatever, if it's not a problem in production, it's not failure. And when it's a problem in production and only impacted a few users in a short period of time, well, it's a pity for them, of course. You don't want to put them offline. But it's also, when it has really impacted users, you will start thinking about this and make sure that this doesn't happen next time. So the role of project manager is more about creating an environment where it's safe for failure to happen. For example, run all your application nodes clustered with a load balancer in front of there. Make sure there are no single points of failure, so that whenever you do type the wrong command and throw away a machine, there's a few others to take over. Run your database environments clustered with an active failure detection. Whenever the master breaks down, the secondary takes over. Make sure you can experiment. Make sure you can experiment in production, because that's then when you will start progressing as a team. When you don't change anything, you don't fail anything, you don't learn anything. So you might ask, I'm copying the guy I see. What is DevOps really about? And I've said it a few times, and I'll probably say it a few times more. DevOps is about culture. It's about reinforcing culture with technology, and vice versa. It's about collaboration, cooperation, communication, all good things that start with a C. It's about being agile and focusing on continuously improving yourself. And one of the cultures I like a lot is the culture that Netflix employs, which is a culture of freedom and responsibility. So freedom is good, freedom is awesome, but you pay a price for freedom. The price you pay for freedom is responsibility. As Werner Vogel, the CTO of Amazon, says, you build it, you run it. Whenever you create something, make sure that it runs all right and that you're responsible for it. Because if you build something that someone else is responsible for, when you break it, you don't, well, depends on your character, but you probably don't feel as bad as when you need to get up at night yourself to fix it. When I know that something I'm pushing now to production, if it breaks tonight, I need to get out of my bed and fix it, I'll better make sure it's good. So take responsibility, trust your teammates, and design a system in which people are held responsible for the consequences of their actions. And create cross-functional teams for every product or service. You build it, you run it. And finally, I think one of the most lesser known things is that DevOps is about empathy. Empathy means that you can place yourself in someone else's shoes and experience the world from their point of view. When you're a developer, you're throwing your application over the wall to the ops guys, and the ops guys have no idea how this works and how to fix it or how to install it. Place yourself in their position. How would you feel if you get an application where you have no idea how to run it? Probably be shitty. DevOps means, pardon me the words, giving a shit about your job enough to learn all the parts and not just your little world. Empathy allows you to view other teams as enablers rather than as blockers. So my final words, be likable, be approachable, and get stuff done. That's about it. Now please, go kick some ass. Do we have time for questions?
We got a couple of minutes. Yeah.
We got a couple of minutes for questions. Anyone who'd like to ask one?
Sure.
Yeah.
Are there any type of, like in your experience, are there any type of businesses or cultures that don't lend themselves to implementing DevOps?
Yeah, so the question is, are there any business or cultures that don't lend themselves for implementing DevOps? Yeah, well, I think in the end, you could, if you put enough effort and pain in there, you could probably succeed in every organization. But organizations that are fairly traditional, hierarchical, and focused on blame, something breaks, you'll find out who did this and we fire him. Those organizations are typically harder to change because this is all in the mind of people and how people work. So it's usually easier in organizations where people are very open, wanting to learn, and are not afraid to fail, than in organizations that are driven by fear, the fear of failing and the fear of getting shouted at by your manager and blame culture. Small organizations are usually easier to change than large organizations because it's easier to move something small than something big. So I think the more traditional, hierarchical, fear-driven, blame-focused, and larger organizations are, the harder they are to change into a modern, open DevOps way of thinking. Any other questions?
Well, you don't have to answer, but I'm just wondering about this as a larger governmental organization where things like are wrong from time to time. What kind of reaction? Let's say somebody misconfigures the database server and well, it goes down because of that. What would the reaction of that person be in such an organization? Would it be that, well, I don't want to tell anybody because maybe I get fired, or is it already quite open because I'm used to it?
Yeah, so the question is, obviously I'm currently working for the Dutch National Police, which is a fairly large IT organization, somewhat 1,500 people. The question is, how is the culture there when something fails and are people getting shouted at and do they fear for their job? There are definitely, I think, parts of the organization where this might be the case. I am lucky to be in a part of the organization where we are fairly self-supporting and we have good people and a good culture and don't really have that much trouble from being part of such a large organization. So as long as you can kind of form your own team, with your own culture, then you're good. But well, of course, we're still part of a large organization. Yes.
What you just described, that you're a self-sufficient unit within a large organization where DevOps probably works. Is that contagious? Does it spread?
Yeah. Yeah. So the question is, when something works well within an organization, will it spread? It depends on the organization, but it would be my preferred way of sparking change in a larger organization. So I've had some discussions with organizations who did this, who in the end transformed the entire organization. So how did you do this? Well, we started off really small, just as a side project, automate some deployment, then showed it to the ops people like, wow, like now this is automated, we don't need to do manual anymore. Wow, cool. So start small. Make sure that you show success, celebrate success, and then hope it spreads, because a small group that shows success and can spark enthusiasm in the rest of the organization can definitely help getting things moving. So yeah, I would say so. And we're seeing this too. We get other parts of the organization that are interested in how we're working and trying to see if they can learn something from our perspective. Last question. Yeah, if you wait long enough, usually someone asks a question, but don't need to push it. We're only at the beginning of the night.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for your
Thank
talk.
You.
It's really interesting. You hanging around?
Yeah, I'll be here. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out. You can follow me on Twitter. You can unfollow me if I bore you, but I will take a chance. Thanks for your time, and I'll be here for the rest of the night.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. Yeah, 5, maximum 10 minutes. I will top up the beers, and yeah, we'll be right back.